I do think that it's important, especially if you're newly married or considering getting married or haven't been married very long, to recognize that there's a difference between saying I'm sorry and can you forgive me? Hey, everybody, welcome to today's episode of the Jeff Heilman Project. Happy Valentine's Day. I believe this episode will be airing on Valentine's Day. If not, it's right there around the corner. It is a love day for a majority of the people. And if you have not planned to take your significant other out yet,
You're a loser. No,
I wouldn't quite say a
just
loser,
kidding.
but you might rethink
Just
that one.
kidding.
And you might try to do something. I mentioned, I confessed in our last episode that I don't have any Valentine's Day decor out, but today I'm actually wearing my red and my hearts. So there you go. I get to be the Valentine's Day decor.
You do.
But in the spirit of Valentine's Day, here's a question for you, Jeff.
No
What
idea.
did you love about this week so far? What have you loved about this week so far? Did you love the fact the Eagles won the Super Bowl?
Oh, breaking my heart. No,
What
I
do you
really wanted
mean?
to see Kansas City win.
Oh, you did? You are
That's
like
why I left. That's why I came in late and left early. What are you talking about?
the one
party.
person who wanted Kansas City to win.
Oh, I'm the one person. Look, if you live in a flyover state, you're a Kansas City fan. Are you kidding me? Everybody wanted Kansas City to win out there. There's only
Yeah,
the
but I
Eagles and the
want
people on the coast.
I want Marky Mark to win. I want the Eagles to
Mark.
win because Marky Mark.
Marky. He didn't actually play for the Eagles.
Hey,
Just so you know. It's a movie.
but it was a good movie.
It was a good movie. Yeah, exactly.
I haven't seen a Kansas City movie yet.
So I would say that this week, here's what I'm drawing. I'm drawing Jessica, by the way. It helps me relax. Not that I'm that nervous,
I was
but
going to say because the podcast is
so
tense.
stressful.
Oh,
All
my God.
213 of you, who probably get half of that, even shows up in their feeds. Let it go. So I would say that I had some changes at work that have allowed me some more margin time. I'm using that margin time to think, to work on things that reduce stress, to think that on constraints to the business, on monster deals that we can close. And it's exciting to me to think about what are we doing to scale what I'm doing at work, what we're doing with the podcast, what we're doing with the newsletter, what we're doing with LinkedIn and Twitter feeds, where I've had multiple opportunities in consulting pop up just in the last couple of days. I've had people reach out to me for personal coaching. I had a great personal coaching session with a guy that I've known for a long time, almost 20 years. And he's one of those guys that he's super smart, super successful, doesn't always call me back because he's just overwhelmed. His business is growing and he's doing the best that he can to try to be a good friend. I know he feels bad about it. There's no reason for that. But I call him all the time and he sometimes calls me, but he called me back. We were at the museum last week and he goes, dude, I'm struggling. I've got some questions in my business and I'm looking at, I'm too close to it. I was like, no problem. I can come up Saturday morning. We did a 3.5 hour session on Saturday, and this is what I like to do. I'm a strategic business planning consulting nerd factor 11 because I get excited when I hear about people struggling in their business. I get excited because I know that they're really close to breakthrough because they've already pushed themselves as far as they can get with their stuff. So I sat down with this friend of mine, and it was amazing. It was sparks flying, new ideas flowing, adding Kanban charts and burn down charts and Kanban boards and standard operating procedures. So that session was incredibly valuable for this person. And I felt good. I felt good about myself. I felt like I was doing something of value, and that was good. We've gone out to lunch a couple of times this week. Those were really good. Yesterday, Monday, and Tuesday were just blurs. Building standard operating procedures, having time to think, having, account planning for larger deals, going from 7-figure deals to actually looking at what do 8-figure deals look like, and having fun, just resting, having fun. having margin time after grinding for
You forgot to
18
mention the
months.
fact that you started watching Bad Monkey and you
Oh, yeah.
evidently
Oh,
are in
Bad Monkey.
love.
I did all of it. I did it all.
You finished it?
All the way through,
How
10
many
episodes.
is it one season?
It's season 2 is green lighted. So we're looking forward to that. But if you guys haven't seen Bad Monkey and you like Vince Vaughn, if you don't like Vince Vaughn, it's not going to help you, but it was the best. I mean, this is so funny.
And yeah, well,
So it was a good week.
that sounds like it was a good week, and it sounds like there was lots to love, and I think that that's what's keying in on that is just like finding in a situation what can we love or what makes this more tolerable. We're big fans.
This life.
We're big fans. I'm a huge fan of rewardivation, and that's what I call it's reward and motivation married together, and so it's called rewardivation.
Yeah.
Because I get motivated by reward, and so I always try to sandwich a task that I particularly may not like to do with a reward at the end, and so therefore it becomes my rewardivation, and something mundane may become more enjoyable that way.
I agree.
What we were going to talk about the last week we talked about love in the workplace, and that got us to the concept in the talking about permission, getting to the permission stage, and making sure, like with your clients, that you get permission so that you can at the end take your relationship to the next level, because
We're not necessarily talking about dating here, folks.
not necessarily. Yeah, not last week. Last week was more love in the workplace and getting to the permission stage in order to advance a
Yeah.
relationship. This week, I think it would be great, considering it is
What are we talking about?
Valentine's Day and that we are married, that we talk about love in marriage.
Yeah.
And that we've been married, Jeff and I have been married for we're going on our 29th year.
Yeah, it'll be 29. We'll be together 29 years in about a month.
Yep. And so as
Which
we've
is
been married a
cool.
long time, there have been moments when we haven't always been the most lovable.
Not really.
Or
Not
the
really
most
true.
loving, but we've always loved each other. And I think
Always been in
that's
love.
important. I
Yeah.
think that if we were to talk to, anybody who's single and considering getting married or wanting to be in a marriage relationship, that we would highly encourage, finding somebody that you could be best friends with first. And
I like the best friends thing. Plus, like, we took sex off the table for the first 90 days. We got married in 90 days, by the way. And
I was going to say, we took sex off the table until marriage. It
Which was
just
90
happened
days.
to be 90
it just
days.
happened. It's part of the motivation, I can tell you that, at least on my side. And I think that really helped. The studies that we're looking at right now, as far as couples, like why is it so hard to fall in love? And if you look at what the studies that Dr. Andrew Huberman does on dopamine, Dr. K, he's an Indian guy, Alok K, just did a great podcast on Diary of a CEO, talking at in depth about that. It turns out you need dopamine to fall in love. Dopamine is the sex drug, like it gets released when you have sex, but it's also the thing that makes you hungry for sex, hungry for relationships, hungry for intimacy, just hungry. And when you have a big dump of dopamine into your system, you're not as hungry. Rats who have had dopamine taken out of their nervous system will not walk 10 feet to go get food because they don't get hungry, because there's no dopamine to make them hungry. Dopamine is released when you do drugs, when you do crack, when you drink alcohol, when you laugh.
Well, dopamine is an upper, right? Like it's something that makes you excited.
It's an energy transport. Like energy transports through adenosine triphosphate, and it connects. It's a connector. I'm not a doctor, but it connects. It's kind of like, Millennium Falcon needs to find a dock, a place to land, right? It needs to find a place to land. So dopamine has to do with a neurotransmitter of energy. And it feels like hunger. So when you, oh my God, I just can't wait to get home. I got to get home. People drive crazy on Friday because they're exhausted and they're hungry to get home. That's dopamine in their system that's making them hungry to get home. When we're on our screens all the time, people, if you want to fall in love, dating apps are good, but dating is better. You want to be off your devices enough. Like if you got a date coming up, stay off your phone for a couple hours. Go for a walk. do some deep breathing exercises, go to the gym, hydrate, take a nap. These things will put dopamine back into your system, and it will make you hungrier to pay attention and be present. So I'm seeing a lot of people in their late 30s, early 40s, people saying, where are all the men these days? Where are all the manly men that are like, we're done with masculine toxicity. We're done with the Me Too movement in a lot of cases, right? We're done with DEI. This is women telling me this. Women. I know women in business, in recruiting, who are all supposed to be about DEI. I know women of color that are like, we're done with DEI. We want the masculine energy to return. We need it. It's part of what makes the balance in the universe. Not too much, not painful, not toxic,
Doesn't
but
the I stand for inclusion?
yeah,
Wouldn't that include men?
you would think.
I'm just like,
You would
wait a
think.
minute.
Yeah. Except if
Hold
you get
on.
too woke, it's about including everybody but men, because after all, it's their turn to be discriminated against. Like that's the whole agenda. That's the whole woke agenda is, hey, it's white males' turn to get discriminated against.
I'm
And
just
it's
trying to
just,
think, like, how do you vet that out? Like, it's like,
yeah, it doesn't
okay,
work.
he's wearing a now, if he's wearing a collared shirt, okay, so we'll interview him.
No, it's
I mean,
white and
like,
he's
how do you?
male. And that means he's not good because he's got to be a racist, right? Because after all, aren't all white men racist? I mean, that's the whole agenda. It's their turn to be discriminated against. And it's like, I can say whatever I want about it, but because my podcast. But the truth is that there's different points of view, and all points of view are welcome here. But I would say that what I'm seeing is people in business are tired of the whole, hey,
Well,
it's
aren't there a lot of
supposed
large
to.
companies who are
Oh
going
yeah.
away with it? Like
Yeah,
McDonald's, I think, quit
a lot of
it,
big
and
companies are
I think even
doing it.
Google and
Yeah, which
Facebook.
is not anti-women. It doesn't mean we're anti-women. It
No.
doesn't mean we're anti-people of color just because we're white and we're saying DEI doesn't work. What we're saying is reverse racism doesn't work. Reverse misogyny, the reverse of misogyny doesn't work. It's like, hey, are there people who are misogynistic out there? Yeah. Is it good? No. It should be treated like, hey, you're not nice, you don't belong here. But saying you're not nice, or you're in the stereotypic profile of people we're used to taking misogynistic abuse from, so you're out, that seems prejudice in the opposite direction.
Well, it sounds like hiring is probably going to get more towards like masked singer, like people are going to be behind screens or something.
Yeah.
Just look at my paper and read what's on my paper, and then
Look,
call me in for an
and
interview.
the truth is, if we're going up against a job, let me just break this down, okay? If you're going up against a job against 50 other people, shouldn't your sights be higher? What would happen if we move from a capacity of, I'm not very good, right? I'm 20 and I suck because I've never done anything with my life, maybe. That's how I was at 20. To, okay, now I'm 30, I'm a little bit better at what I'm doing. To, now I'm 40 and I'm excellent at what I'm doing. But if I'm 40, or let's say 35 to 40, which is we know from the stats, that's who's watching this. It's 35 to 45-year-old. 80% men, about 20% women. Thanks women for watching. Hope you're enjoying what we're sharing here too, because it's for you. It's just as much for you as it is for the guys. If we're 30 to 40 and we're excellent at what we do, and we're going and interviewing for jobs that have 2 or 3 or 400 or 5,000 applicants, we're thinking too small, because where we really want to be is not excellent. Anybody that's good with excellent, mediocre is so much easier. Just go back to Fred Flintstone and the bowling league. Where you really want to be is you want to be in your zone of genius. You want to be doing the thing that only you can do. My clients hire me because they've never met or heard about anything that I do. If I'm talking about something that they've already heard of, I'm wasting my time. Let's get out of that. We need to be creating something new so that there is nobody who can compete with you, because you're oscillating at such a high vibration, such a high frequency of thought. And that's how I get $30,000 for an engagement, or $50,000 for an engagement that takes, a matter of a couple of days to discharge the actual work effort of, and maybe some light consulting for a month or two.
So I'm clearly, I mean, this is not my area of expertise. I'm the stay-at-home wife
I think
who's read a lot.
I think you're
But
way sharper than
well,
you
I'm
give
not saying I'm
yourself
not
credit in
sharp.
that
I'm just
statement.
saying that this is not
You're
my
sharper than a
this is
two-edged
not
sword.
in my wheelhouse. When I understand when colleges are required or requested to have diversity and a certain percentage of this and a certain percentage of that
Yeah,
because
because
they're going
God
to get
forbid if a college is
hold
called
on
racist.
let me because they're going to get a government kickback
It's
for
the government.
certain things.
Yep.
So in a company, are they getting government kickbacks, or why would a company say that they need to have a certain percentage of female to male? Is it, or are they just trying to prevent like
It's because the
news
people
coverage
it's because
or
the people they sell to in much of the world are subject to a woke left media that says that if you're white and male, you're racist. And if you do business with a company run by
so
white
yeah, but
males,
my point
you're
is like are
racist.
they using it in their advertising campaign like we
It's
hired
everywhere.
60% women so come and buy our product, or are they getting some sort of a government benefit
Yeah,
for
it's
that?
fear-based, and it basically says, we're not racist, buy from us. We don't want to lose your business because you think we're racist, so we're going to cater. We're not going to worry about what the best product is. We're not going to worry about who the most creative people are. If it was all women,
Well, that's a big thing, women-owned businesses,
yeah,
and
women-owned
that's
business is
great.
great. But I'm saying if a large corporation were to say, "Hey, we'll hire only women," they would never do it. Well, what if women are more creative? See, they're in a catch-22. It's hypocritical. What if women are better managers? I tend to think the experiences that I've had as an A plus player in sales and sales leadership, I've done better on the average under women managers. But is that because why aren't we hiring more women managers? It's because women aren't applying for the jobs in many cases, and you can say it. You can say that is not true. But I'm telling you, my experience is there are just less women in tech applying for those
Well, I think
jobs,
that this is a really
and the
good
ones who do make it through are very good.
I think this is a really good segue to, since we're talking about love and marriage and we're talking about women right now in corporate America.
That's her way of letting me know that I got
Um,
off track, ladies and gentlemen.
no,
Just
I'm
kidding.
using it. I'm going to use it because it makes me think of, Beth Allison Moore and her subjugation of women, and it
I was
makes
talking
me
about that book
also
today.
she wrote a second book, by the way. It makes me and it's called Becoming the Preacher's Wife, Pastor's Wife. Yeah, Pastor's Wife. But I think that I think that we've always loved each other, but I think that the depth of our love and appreciation and affinity for one another went deeper when we began to consider ourselves as equals and not
Oh, you want to talk a little bit about that?
yeah.
That was a tough wake up call for me, just personally, because I was trying. I thought it somehow took away from my masculinity as a dude, and I struggled with it. I really did. But then I didn't, and then I was like, oh, this is not only better for you,
Well,
better for me too.
I think that the listeners would benefit from hearing about. I mean, they don't. There were a lot of. It was a struggle in the beginning, but
I'm through the struggle. Like I have no problem talking about struggles that we've overcome.
well, I think that
No problem.
I think that talking about and recognizing the hierarchy initially and what we were both raised and educated to have this understanding that, the guy is the head of the house and the woman is subject to the guy and he makes all the final decisions
Yeah,
and all of that. Very traditional,
very Baptist.
very Baptist,
Yep.
very
Not
traditional.
hating anybody, but
And
it's
then
totally. By the way, anybody who thinks that the man should submit or the wife should submit to the husband because the husband is superior somehow or spiritually right, just so you know, they're entirely taking that out of context. It doesn't say anywhere in the Bible about how the context of Paul saying that had to do with a battle where over 60,000 Roman soldiers had been killed within a period of a couple of weeks. And all of a sudden, the land rights go to all the wives, and the people in politics got scared because the Good Old Boys Network was getting disrupted by all these women landowners who are now entitled to vote because the votes were tied to the land and the landowner, not to the individual. And it's like the Good Old Boy Network couldn't care less because they had tens upon tens of thousands of landowners who were all men. But when they were all serving in the army and they all died at once and all the land went to the women and all the votes went to the women because of the land, they started to make laws pass that women couldn't vote in order to protect the power grab. And because of that, there was a huge cultural uprising and shift because the women were like, this is not right. What Paul's saying is, you women folk know that it's right for you to submit to your husbands. It had nothing to do with spiritual authority of the husbands. It had to do with the fact that Paul's saying, hey, let's play nice with the political structure that we've got going on here because there's an uprising happening and we don't want to call negative attention to ourselves in the church as Christians, because what we're trying to do here is we're trying to tell people about the gospel of Jesus Christ. How did I do on the articulation of that?
I think you did good. I think you did great. I think
So
that
it has nothing to do with the superiority of men in leadership whatsoever. I have met some incredible women leaders. I've met some incredible men leaders, and I've met horrible leaders of both male and female. It has nothing to do with gender. Are women leaders different? I've seen over time, working for dozens of women leaders, there are certain tendencies that upon which stereotypes get built, but they're not absolute. And then I've seen the same thing happen on the guy's side. But ultimately, leadership is about character. Leadership is about authenticity and vulnerability and about knowing where to go and what our next steps are. And women are just as capable, if not more so. Men are just as capable, if not more so, in any given situation. And I'm just sick of this backlash against male leaders because women have been kept down. Women, do yourselves a favor. Go grow. Go fight for those jobs. Go create. Go do what you're capable of
and
doing.
help yourselves
And
to
help
find an
yourselves find something amazing
understanding
because you
of
can do it.
and even in marriage, to find an understanding of the concept. See, this is where man, in what we've learned, has taken religion, and in that religion, in order to, and I read Beth Allison Barr shared about how a statistic of like 80% of the work in the church is done by unpaid women.
Yeah, volunteers
And
who
they
are not
cannot,
seen as
because they cannot
equals.
support, because they cannot
It's because
support
they
the
don't have any money.
church,
Yeah.
they keep them as unpaid women under this lack of positional. They don't give them titles, because if they were to give them
Then
titles,
they got to
then
pay
they'd have
them.
to pay them.
Yeah. So they're just the pastor's wife.
So,
And the whole thing is, folks, the reason why they got no money, because they're not preaching the gospel.
and
If they preach
because
the gospel, no, hold on a second. If you would just preach the gospel uncompromised, I've never seen a church, whether the pastor's exciting, whether he's boring as potatoes with no cheese or salt. If they preach the gospel uncompromisingly, the church is going to grow. If the church grows, people are going to contribute and support it. And if the people contribute and support it, then they can pay women pastors and give them titles and pay them for the work that they've been doing as leaders. I mean, look at, oh my gosh, what's her name? Our favorite gal. She looks like my stepmom, but she's
Joyce Meyer.
Yeah, Joyce Meyer. Yeah.
She's awesome.
Joyce Meyer, to me, is one of the most amazing human beings, male or female, Christian or Muslim, that I've ever seen in my entire life. And she just preaches the gospel. She tells stories and she tells people what the Bible says. And the gal makes tens upon tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars a year pour into her ministry because people want to hear the gospel. They want to hear the truth so they can align their lives. I love listening to her. I'd just about rather listen to her than any male pastor out there who is not preaching the gospel. And I was not real big on listening to women in the beginning because I hadn't heard, all the women in my life didn't seem to have a brain in their head growing up with the folks that were instructing me. Joyce Meyer is a phenomenal resource and example.
And because we're
to the
talking
contrary.
about marriage and we're talking about the hierarchy and all these things, I just, it would be contradictory for Paul to encourage that type of behavior, considering the teachings of being evenly yoked. And when you consider being evenly yoked, there's no room for one to lead in front of the other. And so when you understand the concept of being evenly yoked, you understand partnership, you understand co-laboring. And that is such an integral word, that is so important a word to really embrace and put your relationship, base your relationship on being co-laborers. We're called to work together. We're called to work in tandem. Paul's very specific when he says there's neither male nor female, neither Jew nor Greek. And so therefore, in a marriage relationship, coming to that point to where you recognize, we're working together. We're going to make decisions together. We're going to pray together. We're going to raise our kids together. That this is a together. This isn't, one over the other. This is a together partnership. And that really, in our relationship, it was difficult, the initial transition to going from the linear hierarchy, the formula that was status quo, to this new creation, and that new creation in him being the full embodiment of being co-laborers and the full embodiment of being evenly yoked, because that's what we always had originally intended. We wanted to be evenly yoked. We wanted to have be on the same page. Let's be on the same
Always.
page in finances. Let's be on the same page in raising children. Let's be on the same page in our beliefs, because that way we'll be in agreement. And when two or more are in agreement, then it'll be done amongst them. And so I just, talking about this being love and talking about love and marriage, I don't know that there can be very much room for really good, next level type of love if you don't see each other as being, heirs according to the promise, and like evenly yoked together.
Sure.
And co-laboring together,
I would
going
agree
in the
with that.
same direction. So
Yeah, and let's look at it from the guy's point of view for just a second.
sure.
What
I
happens?
don't have that point of view.
What happens when you're supposed to be in charge and all of a sudden now you're not? Well,
Do
then
tell.
who's going to be in charge? What about God? What if God was in charge? Well, yeah, but somebody's got to make the final decision. Well, let me ask you a question, Haas. If you're making the final decision because you're the dude and your wife is vehemently against it, how are you evenly yoked? My thought with Jessica after I got through this was, we need to get an agreement on what we believe God wants us to do on something. And whatever he decides, as we come to the conclusion, we're going to do that. And we're either going to do it in agreement, or we're not moving forward on that decision until we can get to a peace about something that needs to be done. And that has been a way of protecting us and our family by setting that standard. So some people might have different points of view on that. I've gone round and round and round about it, spent a lot of time meditating, a lot of time in prayer to figure out it. And what I found is that he wants us evenly yoked. Does that mean that my wife rules over me as per the desire? No, because I have no problem standing up and saying, I don't agree with it. We're not going forward. We're not moving forward on this until we're in agreement on something. And, she's been, I would say, I can't think of anything where you've done something that wasn't something that we agreed on, that you went off and did something on your own. I can't think of anything that falls into that category. And likewise, vice versa. Like, there's things that decisions need to be made and stuff needs to happen. But at the same time, look, unless we're in agreement on something, I don't want to move forward on it.
So that's good. Let's be, as we're kind of closing out, winding down. Let's talk about forgiveness.
Are we at
Oh, I
time
don't
already?
know. I don't know.
I think we're getting done.
I'm feeling we're getting close.
Andrew's moving.
Andrew's moving,
and shaking in it.
but let's talk about forgiveness. Let's talk about like because there are, this is stuff that we're talking about that people could either be currently in or having like not quite gotten over yet. Maybe it's in the past. So as far as forgiveness, we were taught, or at least I remember being taught when we were with Pastor Huck at New Beginnings, that forgiveness means forgotten. Like being able to actually say that you've forgiven an issue means that it's done and you've gotten to the point to where it's forgotten. It's not, it doesn't, there might be a little sting there, but like
you and I don't go to bed mad.
It's forgotten, but I do think that it's important, especially if you're newly married or considering getting married or haven't been married very long, to recognize that there's a difference between saying I'm sorry and can you forgive me?
Yep.
And when you can get to that mature point in your relationship where you can say, can you forgive me? Then the other person obviously has to have a response, and that response has to be yes or no. It's different than just saying, I mean, you can say, I'm sorry until you're blue in the face. But the other person doesn't have to necessarily receive it. They can just hear it and be like,
that's right.
that's okay, or whatever. So being able to walk in forgiveness, and the big part of that also is learning how to forgive yourself and being able to say, I forgive me for having done this thing. I'm gonna
I'd like
move
to also
on.
jump in and say
Sure.
sin isn't just, I did something wrong and I'm sorry. Sin is, where is there a truth that God says this is the standard and we're living in something that's contrary to that, right? Being able to say, hey, I'm actually really good, but I'm not believing that I'm good, right? The truth is that God made us incredible creations. But if we believe something that's different than that, that's sin.
Hmm.
It's not, we're missing the mark on that. There's a truth, it's a standard in our lives, and it's not working, or we're not following it because of whatever reason.
I know the Jews call there is a sin of poverty that a lot that they understand, and that is only because you're believing in something that is opposed from God's nature. And so God's nature is to be rich. God's nature is prosperity. God's nature is there's a propensity towards
Winning.
prosperity that God has, and he's put inside each and every one of us. And therefore, if you believe that you're supposed to be poor, that is what is considered the sin of poverty. And so what we're looking at is what is our, you know, we were called to become one. That's what it says. When you get married, and there's a lot of people, I've been talking to a lot more people now that don't believe in marriage at all. They don't think it's applicable. They don't think it's modern. They don't think that it's important. And what the Bible says is that when the two come together in the ceremony, that they become, not ceremony meaning having to be like in a church and all that. When the two come together, they become one flesh. And it's scripture does say that's why you leave your father and your mother. And this is not a Christian podcast. Well, we happen to be Christians, but this is
Christians is
not a
not
religious
not
podcast.
it's not a religious podcast
This
because
is
I'm not a
church.
pastor.
We just talked about bad monkey for Pete's sake. So come on. But the principles are basically when the two come together, they become one. And as you become one, it understanding that missing the mark on this, that like you got to recognize you're in a relationship. This isn't about you anymore by yourself. This isn't what I want, and what I'm going to do. And
Let me say one thing too. If your wife is a bitch, you probably have something to do with it, bud. And if your husband is a jerk, you probably have something to do with it, ma'am.
so you're going to say bitch, but not asshole.
Asshole. You can say, yeah, a dick, jerk. No, I mean we'll make it even, right? People say, well, it takes two to tango. It only takes one person to serve the other person and serve and help and love and be kind and to change the picture. The reason why Jessica and I have a great marriage is because I esteem her higher than myself in many, many, many ways. I look up to you. I appreciate you. I appreciate your work ethic. I appreciate your sense of style. I appreciate the design and the way that you handle interiors, the your the food that you make, the cleaning, the constant cleaning and picking up of things. It's not your job, it's everybody's job, but somehow you find a way to make it done and you make it your job. The help, the food that you bring, the fact that you pick my clothes out for me to wear because I'm not great at that. Like the way that you think about things so carefully, where things are going to go in the house, how the workflow is going to be, how the foot traffic would be in parties, entertaining, invitations, food, flatware, serviceware, support. Like you could run an army of people if I could give you enough money to do
I do run
it.
an army.
And I think that I really look up to and admire how hard you work and how much you put into everything that you do as a stay-at-home wife who doesn't technically bring in any money, but you're supporting me so that all I have to worry about is making money. And eventually, you're going to be getting paid speaking engagements. You will be publishing books. This podcast will be turning into retail stores and all these things, and it'll be you making money, in spite of me or with me or without me, regardless.
We're co-laborers. We're going to be making we're going to be making those bucks together.
And I can tell you that
making that cheddar together.
I love that we do so many things together. We go to lunch, we go to breakfast almost every day. I admire and appreciate so much all the things that you do. And I think that is such a big part of why we have a successful marriage. And I feel like you
I do too.
feel the same way.
Oh no, your ability to think and to be able to walk into a room and know exactly what the need is as soon as you get into the room, and then also your eccentricities. And the reason why I say eccentricity is that, I mean, in my opinion, eccentric is thinking at a frame rate that is so much quicker than what, everybody else is thinking at, that it becomes eccentric. And so that frame rate, that rapid frame rate is...
Sean Mulvaney just calls it weird.
Well, it's admirable because you're able to consider thoughts and Fibonacci scales and asking Chat GPT all these crazy things. And I'm just like, dude, wow. Like, I can't even begin to imagine. So I admire very much your brain and the way that your brain operates and the way that your brain works.
I don't know how to do it any other way.
And I appreciate the fact that you're always considering the kids and the family and what's next. What's next is always on your heart and mind, and what's next. And so it's really cool. It's really cool to see how you've grown up and how you've matured in the last 30 years almost.
Yeah.
We've definitely been together longer than we've lived without each other. That's for sure.
I'm trying to think. When did Dumb and Dumber come out? I think Dumb and Dumber came
I
out
don't
like
know.
the time that we got
I've
married.
never seen it.
I haven't seen
only
it either,
ever
but
seen
he's
clips.
such an idiot.
I've
So
only
great.
ever seen clips, and somehow there's a car that looks like a puppy. I don't know. It's just like I mean, I feel like I'm getting dumber as I even think about Dumb and Dumber. So it's like dumber, dumber, and dumber. I don't know. But anyways,
This is what we do, people.
It's fun.
If you don't like it, don't watch.
But we can quote Tommy Boy verbatim.
Oh,
so
we absolutely
I
can.
guess that's not.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what's better. But anyways, we hope that you enjoyed this relationship
if you like
episode.
This, please remember that when you subscribe, be careful not to subscribe or you're going to get this every week because that's what we do. So if you don't like it, don't subscribe. But if you do, put comments together. Let us know what makes you laugh. Let us know what makes you cry. And let us know what pisses you off because we like pissing people off because it makes them think. And obviously people watch our show even though they get mad and they tell me, the hate, you would believe it. 200 subscribers, yes, we still get hate. In fact, I got to go look at all the hate comments because I haven't checked them in a couple of months. So
I don't ever even go on it, so I'm sorry. If you send a
reply.
comment to
We
me,
do.
tell Jeff or Andrew.
Yeah, but if you hate something, let us know too because we like
me.
pissing people off. It means we're causing conversations of people to think because we're not trying to hurt people. We're trying to help people. Paul Manzer used to say that.
What?
I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help you. Vacuum cleaner sales, one of my mentors. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help you.
If you want to go deeper into the word, I've got a show on my channel.
Let's plug the show. For goodness sakes,
the Build
Fabulous
Me Uppies.
Friday.
Okay, no, See You Fridays.
See You Friday. Yeah.
I have a show called See You Friday. It's on Fridays, and it's video, and you can go to jessicabuilds.com to watch it, or you can go to YouTube at Jessica Builds. But in that, I do talk more scripture because I am an ordained pastor.
You are
in the state of California, and I can do marriages. That's all that means.
You can marry people. So if you want to get married,
that's all that means. So, anyways,
can't prescribe drugs though. Unfortunately,
no, sorry,
no
that's above
nursing.
my pay grade.
Yeah.
We love you guys. Thanks for joining us today and sticking with us.
Just remember, if you haven't been to Midas, what's stopping you?
Bye.
That's
have a great
from
week.
when we grew up.
Yeah,
That's a thing.
I got it.
Ed Babar, Furniture USA, ladies and gentlemen.
Got
Bye,
that.
kids.
Bye.